Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 71. This is the very first podcast of the year 2022, and we are hoping that 2022 is going to be a fantastic year for all of us. And we are kicking off the year with an international guest who I will introduce you to in a second. But first of all, we are one man down today. Paul Bassett is stuck in traffic somewhere, I've been told. So we have Mr. Peter Lant in Bath. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm all right. How was Christmas?
Christmas was lovely. And if you're not watching on YouTube, Pete has. I've just been commenting on Pete's beard. It looks very, very good. He didn't have a beard last time he spoke, but he's been away on holiday and he's looking different. He's looking
If
good.
you're just listening as well, when he says commenting, he said it looked all right.
I was trying to think of the word complimenting is the word I should have used.
I said before we started recording, before Stina came on as well, my girlfriend Sean, I didn't have a shave I don't shave very often anyway, but once a week, whether I need it or not. And I left it for a little while, and she was like, "Oh, I quite like that." So I'm going to see how far I can get away with it and just keep growing it until she tells me to stop.
And she knows this?
Sort of. She's not here at the moment, but she'll find out. Put it that way.
Okay. And Pete just mentioned Stina's name actually, which before the introduction, but that's
I'll let it slip.
We had Tracy Rifkind on, obviously, I think a few weeks back in December. On the podcast, and I asked Tracy at the end of the podcast, and I sort of said, if you have any people that you think would be good for the podcast, any recommendations, please do let me know. And Tracy said she sent me an email and said, look, I really think you should speak to Stina, who is in Sweden. So it's Stina Albihn in Sweden, and we got in touch with Stina a couple of weeks back, and we've got her in with us now. I've not met Stina before, but she comes highly recommended by Tracy, and I know a little bit about her. We've had a little bit of a chat before recording, but it's going to kind of be us getting to know Stina at the same time as you, the listeners, which is going to be really, really good. And it's the first podcast of 2022, so we're kicking off as we mean to continue. So welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, Stina.
Thank you so much.
And Stina was meant to be traveling. She was meant to be, I think, in the mountains somewhere doing this podcast, but she's at home because of pandemic and rules and all those sort of things. So we're slightly differently than we were planning on, but we are here today. So Stina, first of all, I mean, for the listeners and for us as well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? I know you're obviously in the health and fitness industry. You've been around training, I think, for the most of your life. But just kind of tell us kind of a little bit about your history, what you've done in the past, what you're doing now, and how you got here. And then we can delve into some kind of different areas as we go, if that's okay.
Yes. It's going to be a long story short. I think you like that. So keeping it short. Well, I grew up north where I was supposed to be right now. And I've been doing all kinds of sports, maybe since I was 8, when my mom, I think it was my mom, she couldn't deal with all my energy anymore. So she put me into track and field, and from there on, I sort of never came home. So at age of 14, I think I did like 17 training sessions a week. It was track and field, and I had soccer, and I played indoor bandy. You don't know that, but it's a Scandinavian thing. And I also had a horse, and I played badminton, and I was never at home because I just enjoyed training so much. So that's where I sort of kind of come from. And then my track trainer told me that I wasn't allowed to do all these stuff anymore because of the risk of injuries. And so and my mom told me she couldn't see me being all over the place anymore either because I was never at home. So I started with not doing the horse thing. And that saved up a lot of hours. And then I kept on playing soccer with also increasing my amount of training the track.
Can I just ask, Stina, when you say track and field, I know that when we've had Dan John on before, he really recommends that children, especially you said mentioned from age 8 up, kind of get exposed to as many different sports and activities as they possibly can without specializing.
Yes.
So when you use the whole term track and field, were you what were you doing? Were you specializing at that stage, or were you just doing everything?
Good question, and I agree with him totally. I almost always agree with Dan John, by the way. He's awesome. From the beginning, you do everything, but I'm like a Smurf. I'm tall as a Smurf, 3 apples high. So high jump wasn't really my thing. I'm a sprinter. I sort of focused on the sprinting, but I left the hundreds. So it turned out to be, when I was 16, I guess I was specialized in long hurdles, which is maybe the suckiest distance of them all, because it's so hard. It's so much lactic acid all over the place. But I like that. So it suited me well. So the training suits me well for that. And I quit. I was actually quite good at football, soccer as well, but my trainer said it was too dangerous. So somewhere around 16, I gave that up for a while. Actually, in the middle of a game, because I pulled my hamstring, and it was 2 weeks before the nationals in track. So I was really mad at myself for being on the field, and so I just took my shoes off, and gave them to my trainer, and said, I'm done. And he's like, well, it wasn't a bad game. And I'm like, well, I'm done because I'm done. And then I was done and focused just on the track. That's how I work. When I give something up, I just leave. So
I suppose you were exposed to all these different sports.
Yes,
and then you must have shown the most sort of promise, or you excelled more at the track, at the speed and the hurdles than you did the other sports.
Yeah, well, the other sports besides football, so I don't know what to say. Soccer, football.
Fine. Yeah.
Football. The football, I was actually quite good there as well. But I felt that it suited me to be responsible for my own results, and also I had a trainer that was really engaged in my training in track. So it sort of came natural, and maybe I was a bit more talented running, because that was what I did when I played football. Anyways, I ran. I was the outfield. I was just running up and down, shoveling in balls to the others to score. That's
interesting. That's interesting that the kind of the distinction between like a solo sport like track, although you are part of a larger team, you're competing on your own, and having a team sport where, like you say, you're not really solely responsible for the success of the team. You are a cog within a bigger machine, aren't you? So but you preferred to actually really be in full control of your own output.
At time I did. At that time I did, and I really, really dove into the track. And the reason I felt that the decision to leave football was right was that I missed out on the 3 top at that Swedish natural championship with like 200ths of a second, and I missed the goal with 1/10 of a second, and I was so mad because I knew that it was because of my hamstring, because it really bugged me. So I focused on the track, and but only 2 years later I was top 3. And then after that, I called my football coach up the day after, and I said, can I come back? And he said yes, because during these 2 years I had focused so much on the track, and just being a track and fielder, and just running, and everything was sort of, even though I had like a huge crowd of people I hung out with, they were all athletes. Because that's what you need to do if you want to be good at something. You need to focus, right? And you need to sort of shut out distractions. So it was easier for me to be within my bubble when I hung out with other people that was also serious with the training. So I had only friends that were athletes, and that was great fun. I had great fun, but I missed out on the team thing, the team spirit, the us together winning, the us together losing, because that's okay. So it was like a deal breaker for me to get that medal. For many people, it's like the inspiration to continue. For me, it was finally. And from that moment on, I started feeling pressure, and I didn't want to carry that pressure alone. So it, whereas I loved the pressure before, it went too heavy on me somewhere around 18, 19. So it's still, way back. And then I went back to football, and I had so much fun with my girls, and we played together, and we always won. We beat everything, and it was so much fun. And I mean, for me, it was like I just did what I was supposed to do. I ran up and down. I had the whole corridor. That was my job. I killed 3 people in one game, and then I crawled out, and I had done a good job. But sometimes I got a bit upset with my teammates if they didn't do their best. You don't have to be awesome. You don't have to be perfect, but you need to do your best. And for me, I demand for myself to do my best and to deliver for myself and for my team, right? And so sometimes I got a bit upset with my teammates if they didn't. I mean, if I work for 2, that's a good thing, right? But if 2 people then think that they can be lazy because he works for 2, then it's no use, because then it's evened out. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was actually challenging for me to accept that everybody's not going to be there 100% with full heart and full mind and spirit, and also something that I've taken with me when in my own career afterwards, because obviously I've stayed with this. When I was 20, I moved to the States for a year and a half to Boston. I was an au pair. I left track. I actually used my fake ID for playing soccer over there, because I found a league that you had to be 21, and I was 20. So that's where I used my fake ID.
The way you say it, I used my fake ID, because everybody had one, didn't they? Everybody had one.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what country you were in, everybody had a fake ID.
Yes, exactly.
But most people use it for drinking.
We use the different things. And the fun thing is, the judge, the referee at that league, he came up to me one night, because we always play late nights, and he looked at me and he said, "Stina, yes, you're not really 21, are you?" And I can't lie. I can pretend that I'm something, but I can't lie. So I was like, "Yes." And he said, "Thank goodness." And I was like, "What?" So this is funny, because he was a trainer at a college, a soccer trainer for the women at a college, girls at a college, and he wanted to headhunt me into their team. So he was happy I was faking it. So he said, "Well, I'm gonna get back to you, and we're gonna have you play for our team. I'm gonna make you. I'll find a way for you to play for our team." I guess he was talking about a scholarship or something. So that was fun. It was a fun moment where truth was actually being told, and it was good for me to be honest. So unfortunately, this might have been in February or March that year. In May that year, I was in a car accident in Boston, and I broke my neck. So talking about injuries, because this is me. I try to avoid playing. My coach told me to avoid soccer and downhill skiing because it was too dangerous. I've broken a few things playing football. Yes, I have. But the neck, that was me avoiding a squirrel when I was driving the car, and I hit a tree and I broke my neck, 2 vertebrae. Boston City Hospital and Dr. Rosiello. That was like 2 things that made a big mark in my sort of life curriculum. What do you call it? Lifeline. it's a long story in the story, but my surgeon, my neurosurgeon, Dr. Osiello, he told me that I shouldn't take my guardian angel for surviving. I needed to thank my angels because he couldn't explain why I wasn't paralyzed if I was alive. And there I was ready to do a surgery, and he told me that I had. Okay, so they stripped me on a bench. They flew me with helicopter. They put me on a bench. I wasn't allowed to move at all. And they put me through x-rays and CAT scans and whatever. I can't remember all, but I remember most of it. And after that, he came. I was laying down. He came with his face over mine, and he told me I have good news and I have bad news. And I told him, bring me the good news first, because that's how I work. I want to know what good I have to work with, and from there you can always find your way, right? So he said, well, you're alive. And I thought, well, no, duh. And then so I said, okay, what's the bad news? And he says, well, you've broken your neck. C4 and C5 are no good. And I can still be impressed today by that 20-year-old asking him that next question, because I said to him, so, okay, what's your plan? How are we going to fix this? And to me, this is natural, and I haven't really, maybe now when I'm old, I realized that this is unique, that we're not all like this, but this is how I work, and this is how I function with myself and my surroundings. So how are we going to fix this? What is the plan? And he told me that we have two choices. Either we strip you to a bench and pull you apart for 3 months, and then you get a halo. And the other way is to operate on you, but it's a 50-50 chance you survive. And I said, well, let's operate. What are we waiting for? And he said, well, we need to call your parents because we need consent from your parents. And I'm like, well, no, we don't do it like that. You operate on me, and then we call them and tell them that everything, Stina broke her neck, but we have operated on her and everything went well. That's how we do it. And he's like, well, no, that's not how we do it in the States. We need somebody to take responsibility for this, and it's not going to be you because you're not 21. And while I'm a grown up in Sweden, he's like, it doesn't matter. We need to call your parents. Just listen to me. And I'm like, and I was still lying down like this. So I said, okay, well, listen carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. And this is from some stupid TV show I watched with.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, listen carefully, because I'm only going to say this once. I said, I must have been high.
From the resistance.
He must have thought I was crazy. But anyways, he called my mom, and I persuaded her to say yes, and they operated on me like a day and a half after the accident, and 20 hours after the operation, I was up walking. I demanded them to let me out. I demanded them. They took bones from my hip, and they they reconstructed the vertebrae, and I still have my clip from 3rd to 6th. It's still there, because you can't put a cast on, So I was up walking and quite nervous, and I had like Harvard medical schools, all doctors around me, really scared that I was going to do something stupid. I wonder why, but I was fine. And then 2 weeks after the neck break, I told my doctor, Osiello, that I didn't want to stay at the hospital anymore. I was done. And he's like, well, we want you here because you have broken your neck. Well, I'm healing, right? And I'm not healing well in the sick environment. I'm not for any use. And he's well, you're not supposed to be for use right now. We want you to heal. And well, okay, I get the point, but I heal better at home. So they let me out with some terms. He was, really straight on me with this, because, and we know this is serious business, right? I was allowed to pick up 1 pound. That was it, not more. 1 pound is nothing. It's like 1/4 of a bottle of milk. It's nothing. It's light. And I said, okay, can I walk? And he said, yes, you are walking. Can I go swimming? And he's like, well, you can be in water. Nobody's allowed near you, but you can be in water. Good. Can I be on a bike? On a stationary bike? And he's like, yes, you can. And I said, okay. I picked up my bag, and everybody in the room yelled because it was more than a pound. But you forget, because he's I know. But anyways, I went home. I stayed with the family that I was working for. They hired a new nanny because I couldn't drive. I couldn't pick up kids. I couldn't do anything, but I could tell them what to do. So they hired another nanny, au pair, that did the job, and I did the yelling and the bossing around. It worked well. And 12 weeks after the neck break, they took me. During these weeks, I came in once a week, and they did an X-ray on me. Dr. Rosiello looked at the X-rays. He called me and he told me what he thought about it. So I didn't meet him for 12 weeks. And then 12 weeks after the surgery, I went back for my final checkup. And I went into his office. I knocked on the door and I went in, and he looked up and he said, my goodness, what have you been, dare I ask you, Stina, what have you been doing? And I was like, what? What? And he said, well, rarely my patients bounce into my office 12 weeks after the neck break. What have you been doing? And I said, well, you told me I could swim and walk and ride the bike. And he's like, yes. The thing is, I walked 8 kilometers every morning. I was in the pool. Everybody at the beach club knew. They saw me. I was walking around in my neck brace. They saw me, so they knew I was broken. I was healing, but they thought I was broken. So I was in the pool and I did exercises that I could do many hours a day. And then when I came home at night, I sat on the stationary bike that they fixed. They got me at home, at the house, and I sat there for 45 minutes. So I kept going. And this is my mental method. This is what I think, I believe in. I think that we are always more healthy. We are more able than we are broken, no matter how broken we are. Almost.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So and I told him, because he asked me, and he said, oh my goodness, I wish I could say that to my other patients. And you guys, why don't they? Why don't, maybe not an hour on the bike every day and 2 hours in the pool and walking 8Ks, but why don't they tell their patients to move around? Because we're made for moving around.
Yep.
We're not made to be sitting down on our butts all days or laying down. We're not made for being careful and watch out for everything. We're here for a reason, and that reason is to live and have fun and use our bodies. And okay, so that's it with that neck story. I've never met a neck surgeon again. He said, my doctor Rosiello said that, well, maybe in 5 to 10 years you're gonna degenerate in your neck. We're gonna have to do another surgery. It's forever since now. I've never had any problems with my neck at all. It's my least of problems, So and I've also always moved around. I have a osteopath that I sometimes see just to check things out. Now it's been 4 years because, well, that's another story. But he says to me all the time, I've never seen anybody with such a healthy neck. Just please keep on moving. Just do what you do, because obviously it works. And it bothers me, it bugs me that healthcare, the modern healthcare, makes people afraid of using their bodies all the time. This is one injury. The same year, well, also I wasn't allowed to run for a year after that, but I ran like 2 weeks later because his explanation was just too fussy. It was something about it might start degenerating. But you said that would happen in 10 years anyways. Well, we're not sure. Okay, we're not sure.
It's funny, isn't it? That story. It's really good. It's a really good story. I love it. But all this thing starts coming into my head of you were an active child, so because this is the problem with like, I mean, we're going down a bit of a road here, but this is the problem with like medicine and stuff. Not everyone's the same, are they? So you can't just do a blanket. You do this, like everyone does the same thing. So you were allowed, well, you weren't allowed to do all that, but you went and did it anyway because you knew in your body that you could, because you move around a lot. Whereas somebody who didn't and who wasn't an active child might take a longer time to recover, or might be too scared to get up and move or whatever. So you've got to get into that. But the thing is, to me, what it says is movement is just good. Like it is just good because it prepared you for this accident, even though you don't know what's going to happen, but it prepares you for things, doesn't it?
It does. And the thing is, shit's going to happen.
Yes.
You know, everybody has stuff going on, and we're going to bump into messy periods of life. And, you know, this was maybe the biggest of my injuries, but I've broken both these. I've broken a foot, I've broken a knee. These two and the knee, football. The foot is 4 years ago. And this is actually where I started thinking about the neck. My foot got me thinking about my neck. Between my neck and my foot, I have 3 years of in college with health and wellness. So that's what I majored in. That's what I've been focusing on. I've been working with training high and low ever since then. But I have a 8-year gap where people started telling me too much, that they wonder when I was going to grow up and do something real. Not working with training, that would be real, which is weird for us, but for them it's you can't have fun and work. I don't know. I'm not sure. But anyways, so I went to work for a pharmaceutical company as a med rep, and that was all fun. And I talked to a lot of doctors, lots of surgeons, orthopedic surgeons. Good to have good connections when you tend to do things so you break, right? But the thing is, I talk a lot with them, not only about prescribing medicine, but to also make sure that people use the bodies. And to them, it's sad to say, but modern medicine at hospitals, GPs, they don't dare to go there. They don't know how to go there. They don't use movement as medicine. And for me, it is honestly medicine. I was prepared for my injuries. So when I went that road and I've done that path, my body didn't break so much that it couldn't heal. I healed faster and I came back not weaker. Because I was bodily prepared before, I was mentally prepared during, because that's what training also does. It gives me the feeling that I'm able and that my body is able, and it gives me trust in my body. And since I used my body while I was injured, that didn't fall apart. So it could heal the neck. We're still at the neck, but I also didn't totally break down in the rest of my body. And, you know, breathing and moving around is just basic being alive stuff to do.
But that helps you heal as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
The actual movement creates the hormonal
because
effects that your body
circulations,
needs.
hormones, we need the movement to heal better.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm so certain that that's the way to go. And so anyways, after being a med rep for a few years, I started feeding with working as a trainer as well. So here I am using my fake ID again, right? But now, but now I'm sidekicking with training because I cannot be without this job. This is me. And then I realized that now I'm working 2 full-time jobs. This is impossible. So I decided to have faith in my capability to be able to be a grown-up and do something that I'm passionate about, and that is helping people with training and health. So I let go, like around when I met Tracy and Rick. I let go of being a med rep and just decided that this is what I'm going to do. This is me. Why try to fool myself? I'm just overworking myself. So, and I let go, and I did the kettlebell, and body weight, and CKFMS, and I actually did the RKC 1 and 2 back to back 2 weeks in a row because somebody told me it was impossible, and nothing is impossible, right?
When you've had a broken neck and a knackered foot.
Yeah.
Broken wrists.
Anyways, but then I broke my foot 4 years ago, and it was just clumsy. I fell down one stair, and it was a messy foot, and I knew straight away it was broken. It was M5 outside of the foot. I knew it was broken. I reponed. Do you say that in English? Replaced it. I pulled it back together myself.
Okay.
I reduced it myself at Stockholm Central Station because I knew the bull. I tried to walk on it. I knew I had to fix it. So, and then I took the train home to Gothenburg, 3 hours, because I knew that Swedish healthcare wants you to be where you should be. So I went home, took the train, and I actually had to fight for an operation because they didn't really think it was that bad. And I said, it's terrible. And then I've talked to one of my connections from before, orthopedic surgeons, who gave me a second opinion, and I just shoved it down their faces and told them to get things straight. I sound kind of harsh, right? Well, I knew that I had to do this. And then I was in the cast for 6 weeks. And during these 6 weeks, I wasn't allowed to even put my foot down at all. No weight at all. But you can train with a cast, right? I was actually training. I was at a training camp training fencers during one of these, the first weekends after the surgery. With my big pink cast up high, I helped them doing running drills. And because you can show with one leg, right? With one foot up. And it worked well, and I trained myself during these 6 weeks. I was, wiggling my toes, and these two work, and the other leg work, and the core works. So I trained a lot, and during these six weeks, people told me constantly, and we're back to this again now. People told me constantly, should you really be doing this? Shouldn't you be resting? Shouldn't you be? And I'm like, it's a broken foot. It's not me being broken. It's my foot. And it's one bone in the foot. So I know what I'm doing. And I came back 6 weeks later, and they took the cast off, and I met a physio. And this is where you said, Pete, that you can't treat everybody the same way because we're not the same, right? I came into her with 2 hours of training every day, this physio, right? And she hands me a paper sheet with three tiny exercises for my foot. Yeah. And I'm like, nah, I was actually thinking more of, and I told her what I was thinking about. And I said, because this that you're giving me, I did the same day I broke my foot on the train to the surgery. This is, it's too basic. She was treating me like an 85-year-old lady with osteoporosis, And her response was, can you just do what you're told? Can you just do what you are told? And I looked at her, I took the piece of paper and I threw it away. I left my crutches and I walked out of there. And I haven't met them since.
I bet you regretted saying that to you.
I mean, But it was just, it is, but there we are again, the same room when they took my cast off. It was another lady, a bit older than me, lots of more afraid of the situation that I was in. She wasn't, they told her, you need to put your foot down, you need to try to put some weight on. She didn't dare to, because they have told her to be careful. She had been careful for 6 weeks. She's not going to come back, I'm telling you. And this is where we are right now.
I find I could go on about this forever.
I know, me too. I've talked so much about it, but you know,
no, it's really important, especially for our listeners as well, because we'll all be of like, I'm gonna say we'll all be of a certain age, in our 40s or 50s or whatever and stuff like that. I think most people who listen probably are. And you can get to a point in your life there where you are scared. You're scared of things. You're scared to move. I was out with a couple of friends last night. So I used to work in an office and all that. So I've not always been a trainer. You know, so it's not like I'm surrounded by trainers all the time who all have this, like we have a chat here and we all have similar views on things and what have you. And one of them said she'd seen a guy in the park training out of the back of his van. He had a bench press and everything. He was training a woman who was lifting weights in bench press that she shouldn't have been lifting. And I'm like, why not? No, but you know what I mean? It's like, well, why shouldn't she?
I know.
It's like, well, because they were too heavy for her. And it's like, as long as the trainer's any good and he's worth the money and he knows what he's doing and he's got the education, he'll be training her to how she should be trained. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah. And saying that you shouldn't lift something heavy is just saying that you shouldn't carry your body around either, because we weigh something, you know, and we need to be able, if I fall, I need to be able to get up, right? So if I'm stronger than myself, my own weight, I'm more likely to be able to get up if I fall. For me, okay, so that's some of my injuries. I've trained many different people, and I train many different people. I love that. I love the big spectra. I have been training a heavyweight wrestler that was to the Olympics in London 2012, came third. He's been, you know, scoring medals high and low. Awesome guy. Huge, right? I'm small. I'm like 160. He's 193, weighs 120 kilos. He has left his career now. And the funny thing, the interesting thing when I trained him, Johan, is that mostly men came up and said, how can such a small girl train such a big guy? And it's like, I don't know where to go. And he didn't know where to go. He's like, oh. But we had fun. I tried my best to have him in one piece. Every time he came home from a training camp that I wasn't part of, because I was never traveling with him, he was mentally busted and bodily busted. So first of all, get back, find spirit, find heart. What's whole? What can we work with? What do we need to do? But also making him stronger, so strong so he could be able to pick up and throw these huge guys away. So if he wasn't being, if what I'm saying is he should be able to lift more than his own weight, because and after his career, he has said that hadn't been working with me, he had been torn body-wise, torn. The last year we trained together, he busted his knee. 8 months, 1 year before Olympics 2016, he tore his knee and had a huge surgery. He wasn't allowed up on the wrestling mat for 9 months. He wasn't allowed to touch a wrestler for 9 months. So it was the strength coach, which is also a mental coach and maybe good friend. And I also cooked the food. I fed him and I trained him, but big good talks come across the table, and nutrition is so important, not only for athletes, but for all of us. We need to eat well. Should we train well? Yes, but we need to eat well as well. But it was only the training with FIS stuff that took him to the European Championships, like February 2016, and he goes up on the mat and he comes third, which is, I mean, it gives me shivers because it was so good. It wasn't thanks to me, but it was thanks to his spirit and good work together, maybe. And because it's just awesome. But that's one person I've trained. I am now FIS coach for a fencing club in the city, and I've helped the national FIS fencing team with the FIS. But I've sort of shrunk it a bit because of time. And within between that, I've been working with bandy players and soccer, football players, and teams and handball. So different athletes. I love being around athletes because I love the atmosphere. I love the spirit. I love the long-term focus. And I try to bring that into my, can I say that, normal clients, us average people that won't come third on Olympics. We're also good athletes, but not on that level. And we can actually train like athletes, but not on that level. I think that if we look at the goals we set more as athletes than as, I want to look good in a dress in 12 weeks.
Yep.
We are going to be, I'm sorry, but that's what I get. Or I want to fit my suit. But I'm also sad to say that often women come to me. I train a lot of women, and they want to lose weight, look better, fit into a dress, something like that. Something very short term, something very evasive, I should say, because what happens when you reach your weight, or you just and we all know what's gonna happen when you reach that goal weight. Most people just go back because they didn't set this goal that makes you want to stay there, stay healthy. And this is what my passion is, to find the long term. I have 2 long-term goals set with my daughter. She's 14. We train together twice a week. She has booked me as her PT. This is an honor. This is an honor beyond. She has chosen me. I'm honored. When I'm 84, which is a few years down the road, I'm going to be able to stand on my head with this poor thing and take my socks off. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but it's a fun goal, right? It's a life goal.
Stina, was that when you're 84?
84, yes.
84.
Yes,
you're going to do
and I've stolen that
right?
from a lady because I went to LA and trained at a yoga studio there, and there was this old lady, amazing lady. She was 84 and she was doing a headstand, and she was really mad at herself afterwards because she was wobbly. And I'm like, oh, you're my idol, you're my superstar. She was outstanding. It's so beautiful. And so that's one of my goals. And I also have that when I'm 90, I want to be able to, I'm going to hike up the ski mountain where I was supposed to be and go to the coffee place and have a coffee and then take the lift down. My daughter and I, we do this every time we go up there. We always, summertime, we climb up the slope somehow, and then we take a coffee. Not her, she gets a soda, and then we take the lift down. It's fun. It's a good adventure, and you don't have to take the black hill up. You can take the other hill. Last time we took the Via Ferrata. So I mean, there are different ways up the hill, but when I'm 90, I want to be able to do that. I think that when you set these kind of goals that are life affirming, long term, you also need to understand more and own your body. You need to understand that it's about life. Training is not for 4 weeks. We're here. It's a new year. There are all these New Year's resolutions, and we're back to this every single year. People promising to get in shape in 6 weeks, in 6 weeks, or 12 weeks, or 16 weeks, or whatever. And every time I see somebody or hear somebody say, I've joined the 12 weeks, 16 weeks, or whatever, I start thinking, what happens the first day of week 13? What's your plan? Because if we don't have a plan for more than this, it's gonna most likely, you know.
We use a saying a lot on here, of what does it look like in 20 years time?
Yeah.
What does it look like? And we spoke to Jim Hatcher as well, twice, a couple of times. Do you know Jim?
No.
Have you heard of Jim though?
I've heard or have never met.
Yeah, so I think he's just turned 80. He's just celebrated his 54th wedding anniversary as well, actually, like last week, which is fantastic. But yeah, he's just turned 80, and he says he was kind of saying that a lot as well. It's like, you've just got to think about what does it look like in the future, and then, but you get people who haven't started yet who think they're too old in their 40s and 50s, and it's like, yeah, but in 20 years' time, you'll be 70 odd. Imagine how good you'll be then if you start now.
Exactly.
And I've just realized I've got to up my goals as well, because they're nowhere near that for when I'm 84.
But isn't it fun to think about?
Absolutely.
I mean, and we're going through so many changes in life, and we can't see into the future, but we can make sure that what I do today is gonna make me able to keep on.
Yes.
You know, what I do today is gonna make me prepared for whatever comes around the corner.
Yeah.
And so
who do you want to be in 20 years' time? So do today what that person would do
exactly
for themselves.
Yes.
There's a book I read a while ago about by Kerry McGonigal, she's called as well, and they're like, it had an example, but there's lots of other examples of this. But it goes on about you plus 20. So you in 20 years' time are you too. You like the other you. So this you can do whatever the hell they like, because that you has to pay for it. Whereas if you do, not like, you don't have to live like a nun or a monk or something like that, but, you know, if you do things that that person would be proud of and that person would be happy to be, then, you know, that person's going to be happy.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that is, I mean, that's the Chinese say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Yep. The second best time is today.
Right now.
And the seed you plant today, if you water it and nurture it and help it, it's going to grow a big tree later on. So what's you going to, it's the same thing, just another angle of it. And also, if you start making goals that are, I want to set goals. I want to, with my clients, I train myself a lot. I don't have a plan because I've had so many plans. I've had so many strict plans for myself, and I have a tendency to follow a plan no matter what. Okay, that's my personality. I follow a plan no matter what. And so
I know exactly what you mean.
I've been holding running plans for that I got from my trainer when I was track and fielding, and it wasn't about if, it was about when am I going to throw up. Okay, I just looked and I was like, oh, okay, the 10 of this, 5 of those, that's where I'm going to feel nauseous. Okay, I never ever left a training session without having completed everything he wrote down, because I couldn't face him telling him I gave up. Okay, and that was good for me when I was competing, but it's also good to know yourself enough to maybe not always do it like that. So I have this technique for my own training. That is that I get up on a stationary bike or a treadmill, or no, not treadmill. I don't like treadmill, it's boring. But I go out running, or I do a stair climber, and I just sort of feel what I want to do. But that is also because I've trained so much, and because I train other people. So my head is full of training plans. My head is full of drills I need to do, and I have things I need to do every week. I always do overhead squats. Always, they should be there always, because it's totally good for the whole body. You need the flexibility in your hips, you need an open chest, you need stable shoulder, you know, it's just good for you. So I need my running. And since I've broken a foot and I've had 7 surgeries on it, before and after this break, I can't always run. I can run 10Ks, it's fine. I can do it 3 days in a row. Last summer I did like 7 to 8Ks every day for 3 weeks. It was fine, but sooner or later I need to back off a bit. And so I don't have it every day. During winter, not at all, almost. I just go out for a jog every now and then. But I want my conditioning because it feels good to sweat, right? And I also, when I do that, because this is me, with my training history, with my knowledge of my body, I feel what I need that day. Sometimes it's an hour of stretching because we need to be able to move big, large movements. Sometimes it's just core training, and sometimes it's with a kettlebell or a barbell. It depends. And that is how I find my way around my own training. I want it to be fun. I want to surprise myself. Because if I set a plan, I don't get surprised at all. If I see a box and I want to jump it, I jump because it's there, you know. And jumping is life affirming. I love life affirming drills because it's fun, and it's good for us to jump. It's good for the bone strap. It's just good for us. It's good for the self-confidence. It makes me feel good.
Good for photographs as well when you do it like that and kick your legs up at the back.
Stina, can I ask, where do you, this training that you do you go to a gym local to you? Do you train at home? What's your kind of setup for your own training?
I have Mother Nature, which is awesome. But also I have a studio of my own. It's not that big. It's 40 square meters. It's perfect for one-on-ones. And it's sometimes where I train myself, but mostly that's my office. That's where I meet my clients because it's private. It's really private, right? But if I'm short in time, I go there. I have a gym where I teach basic phys classes, that is strength and conditioning classes, and also yoga. So that's it, and it's a nice facility. I like to go there to train. And when I teach phys, it's with kettlebells, it's with rubber bands, I want them to be surprised because I think that being surprised is fun. And then I also visit a CrossFit box where I train and do massages for people, because I also do that. So it depends. But wherever I go, I make sure I have a gym.
That's good though, because you mentioned that kind of whole, training is about life, and it's, it's not separate to life. Training for you is about life and these lifestyle goals that you've got. The fact that you've also got all these different options of where you can train. Like you said, you've got the great outdoors, you've got your small studio, you've got the gym that you do some workout, you've got the CrossFit box. So for you to go to these different places and then almost be, inspired and think what you feel like doing that day, you've got so many options. But I suppose the thing that you always know is you are going to train. It's just what you decide to do on that particular day and what your body feels like it needs. So I really like that kind of fluid, integrated, intuitive approach,
Yes. And that's also, I say this because I also believe that this is something I can do, because I've actually grown up training. This is part of my DNA. Wasn't it before? It is now. It is since actually I've been climbing trees all over. I've been all over the place all the time. My mom's fiance, he has a photo of me from when I was like 4, where I sort of swoosh by. I'm like blurry. I'm all blurry because I was just running around. So, and he's like, oh, that's you. And my brother was sitting still.
I love that. I was a very blurred child.
Yes, I was a blurred child. That's me. I was a blurred child. But it's also because of all that training, I can do that today. I use that when I train people, because when they come into my studio, I look at them, and I don't really have. I have an overall plan, right? Of course, and it is what is the client's goals? Of course, what is my goal? So always when somebody comes in to us and they have a picture of what they want. Okay, and if I meet with somebody that has a weight goal or a size goal, I always leave that aside and ask them, okay, so what do you want to be able to do? What is it that you want to be able to do? Because being able is awesome, right? It's life affirming. It's something that you don't want to lose. You don't want to lose the ability of being able to doing something, right? But the weight loss, it's
almost
so
incidental, isn't it? It's almost like
yes.
a byproduct of
yes
type goal.
And it's so what are we going to? I'm just going to stay like this now. It gets, when you're done with that goal, you're there. You need to have a plan for what happens next. If that's your goal, you still need to have a plan for what's next, because you can't keep losing weight, right? Because that's really not healthy. But you don't want to gain it back either, because that's not healthy either. So you still need a plan. And if the plan is to be able to do stuff, and you do that, you start working with your body, those other goals that you had when you came in, they're going to happen like magic, because you take care of your body.
I love that, because a few things you've just said there, but like you said this a few minutes ago as well, just about like having variety and doing different things and what have you. And I do that with my guys as well, and with myself. I've got a training program that I get off my coach, but 3 days are quite hard, and then 2 days in between are just doing like some push-ups and something else, and that's it. So I've got a bar outside, and I'll go and spin around it and practice like skin the cat. I did skin the cat for the first time.
I love skinning the cats.
Never done it before, and I thought, I'll have a go, and I could do it. And I've never even tried, and that takes people years to get to it sometimes, doesn't it? But it has taken me years. I've probably been able to do it for a while. I've just never tried. So I do it with my guys in the park, and I've got parallettes, and I'll be like, right, try an L-sit, and they might be able to do it. And they're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. And it's like, yeah, but that's because you've been doing other swings and snatches and this and that. And so it all fits together. So the goal of just being able to do something, what do you want to be able to do, is brilliant, because then, like you say, everything else comes out of that anyway, doesn't it?
It does. And it's also when you start moving, when you start using your body is also going to start talking back to you, telling you what it needs. When I don't train, it happens rarely, but I don't sleep, and I sleep like a baby because I always train. So last night we drove back from the ski mountains to here. It's an 8-hour drive. Sitting in the car, I've slept like crap last night because I didn't have time to train when I came home, and I was chasing the cat all morning, so I didn't have time to train before I left. But I've slept terribly bad last night. It was just no good sleep. But when I train, I sleep well. But also when I train, I get hungry for good stuff. My body wants nutrition. It doesn't want. I don't eat candy. And the people ask me, "Oh well, what's your go-to food when you feel like binging?" I don't have any go-to foods because I never, honestly, don't. I don't have food that are bad. I don't have food that are shameful. I don't have food that is something that I shouldn't talk about. That is like, because as soon as you start focusing on what's bad, it's still a focus.
So, right, James didn't pick his hammer up there, but just to clarify, that doesn't mean you don't eat cake and you don't eat what people would call bad stuff, does it? It means what you do is you don't call it bad because you might eat it and you don't feel bad about it. You don't feel shameful. You've eaten it because you can. And you should be able
it could be like that, yes.
Right.
And that's what I want for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
It's just that I don't eat candy. I don't eat cakes.
Okay.
I don't eat sugar. But that's not because it's forbidden for me. I don't feel like it. I love popcorn. So I eat popcorn, and I eat a big pile of popcorn because that's what I love that.
Sweet or salty?
No salt. I don't like salt.
Fair enough. So sweet popcorn. Or
no,
just
not
popcorn.
sweet, just plain.
Oh, just plain.
Plain popcorn.
Yeah.
Just popcorn. I love popcorn. But the thing is,
I've gone thirsty just thinking about that. Hang on, I need to drink.
I'm weird, I know, but you figured that out by now. So but the thing is, when you eat well, the body starts wanting that good stuff. Yeah. For me, strawberries are super sweet. For me, watermelon is candy. But we have on Christmas something called mulled wine in Sweden. And we call it glögg. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. I buy the sugar-free version, but it's so sweet for me if I get the normal kind that it sort of hurts my brain. It goes all the way up. It's too sweet because I'm not used to it. So it's not that I'm not allowed to eat candy for myself, but I just don't feel like it. And so that is because I'm not used to eating that kind of stuff. But if somebody loves candy and that's important to be able to eat candy, I would never say it's prohibited. It's not allowed, because things that aren't allowed tend to be the things we want the most, right? And we focus on them, and we go and we think about it, and we obsess about it, and we punish ourselves about it, and it's just a bad spin. I want the positive spin. And with when you start training, I see this so many times. I've seen it so many times. The body starts. You feel hungry, right? When you had a good workout, I'm famished. And when lunch comes in my life, if you stand between me and lunch, I move you, okay? Because I'm hungry. I'm really, really, really hungry. I had my breakfast. I've had maybe 2 hours of training myself, or I've been teaching classes where I always participate when I teach classes, and I train myself afterwards. So when I teach, I don't train, but I use my body. Okay, so it's a difference for me. I totally differ these two, but I use my body. So I'm moving around, and then I train myself, and I have a client. I'm famished when lunch comes, and it's a natural thing, right, to be really hungry because I moved around. But if you sit all day, you don't get that hungry. And if you eat something small, that can be as much calories. If I never talk about calories, but upfront, it's my pile of food. It's. I have people coming up to me all the time. I don't like it, but they come up to me and they say, "How can you put all this? Where's all that food gonna go?" And I'm like, in my belly because I need it. I shouldn't need to explain why I eat a lot. But if you look on my plate, it's a lot of vegetables. It's fish or chicken or meat or, well, something protein rich. That's sort of what I eat normally. That's what I eat. And if you eat a lot of carrots, you got to eat a lot of carrots to get all the energy you need, right? So I need to chew a lot, and I need a big pile of food, and I eat big piles of food. But maybe somebody doesn't feel that hungry, so they take something small. But that something small might not be especially low in calories, because most likely it's something calorie tight, right? And so no vitamins, I guess, and also nothing for the body to work with, because we need to work our internal organs as well. They need food. We need food, and when we train, the body's going to tell me I need food because I've just used up all the fuel here. Okay, so when I mostly men, when I have trained men, I talk about food as gas. Because you guys seem to understand your car better than yourselves. So fancy car, you never put the wrong kind of gas into the car. If it's a diesel car, you put diesel in, right? You make sure it's oil in it and whatever goes around. And then you give yourself a hot dog for lunch. So if you look at yourself more as a Ferrari and you treat yourself as a Ferrari, you polish your wheel, whatever you do with the car, and you do that with your body, it's going to be an awesome body. It's going to run like a sports car. So I just try to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. I like that expression for myself and for everybody else, because if you break it down, it's like I need to move around. We all need to move around. Nobody needs to be sitting down all day long. Nobody. Period. And we need food and we need rest. Those three we need. You need to eat well, train well, sleep well. And
do you think anybody doesn't know that? This is the thing I struggle with all the time. No, seriously, I struggle with this all the time because we talk about that a lot on here. I use the hashtag move towards freedom because I just think I just like it.
Yeah.
I've even got it written on my chest actually. And it's I just find it fascinating that you need to say this over and over and over and over again because everybody knows it. But while they're sitting there watching telly or doing whatever it is that they're doing, they just need to be people seem to need to be told. And then they go, I can't work out why this is happening. And then you say that and they go, oh yeah, I never really thought of it that way. And it's like, well,
unfortunately, yeah, we won't get. Well, I was about to wrap up because we've been on for about an hour, so we won't stop down this one. But
I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No. But
no, it's been great.
But telling people is not. It doesn't work, does it?
No.
Simply, it's not until there's that kind of somehow that what's the word where you have like an epiphany, or something yourself. And you make a decision to change based on something deep within you and your values, or something happens in your life to change you. Because just educating or just telling people what to do or the way to do stuff, that doesn't change. It's like I was having a conversation with someone the other day about they used to be a smoker, and they don't smoke anymore now. And
awesome.
And they said, people always used to tell them, you got to stop smoking. You should give up smoking. It's not good for you. It's not, it's going to give you cancer. You're going to be ill, blah, blah. But until they actually make that internalized deep decision to give up smoking, they're not going to change, and it's something that comes from within, isn't it? So everybody in the world knows, for example, that smoking is not good for their health.
Do you want to know why I gave up smoking? I used to smoke when I was younger. Do you want to know why I gave up smoking? Because when you get to 30, men over 30 have got like a way more chance of being impotent. That was why I gave up.
We all have reasons, right? And that's the important thing. We all have our reasons, but I know you can't say you need to eat, you need to sleep. But when you that's also why I think it's so important. I'm gonna hold on so hard to this because I believe in it so much. And when you start looking at training with a life affirming angle, you start training because you keep training. You go into training with 20 years ahead goal. With things. Sometimes training sucks. Sometimes things aren't awesome, but if you know that you're going to feel good afterwards, at least, because you have a goal that is, I do this for myself, not only today, not only for the kilos, but because I love myself, because I'm worth this. I value me, so I need to do this. I value me, and I think that I try to talk about this a lot. I teach yoga. I don't know how many 100 times I've heard, I should start doing yoga, but I'm so stiff, so I need to. Yes. I mean, then there's this now and later. Better start now, because now is better than later, right? And so I think that this is the biggest of challenges, but also the biggest of opportunities to together start talking more about what do you want to be able to do? What's fun to do? My training is all about me being able to say yes to things. I want to be able to say yes when my daughter says, Mom, do you want to go skiing? Yes. Do you want to go skating? Yes. Do you want to, whatever it is, we do. I don't want to be thinking about my body as, oh, that old. I'm too broken. I'm too weak. It's sad. I don't want to think when I see something on the ground that needs to be moved. Oh, I can't pick that up. It's too heavy for me. So I lift heavy stuff. Because then I know that I can move around in my garden. I have things in my garden that needs to be moved. I can't wait for my boyfriend to come home all the time. You know, I need to be able to carry my the groceries, whatever it is. You know, so being able to do stuff, I think that's an awesome goal to have. Not necessarily it's gonna make me fit into my dream jeans, but you know what? Those jeans are gonna fit me well if I first of all choose the right kinds of jeans, but also because moving around is not only good for the things you want to be able to do, it's good for the body. And honestly, most people that take care of their bodies seem to be quite fit. People that train, athletes, I mean, I train girls right now that are setting the goals for Olympics 2024. It's 2 years ahead, 2.5 years. But I mean, that's a long term for most people. I've worked with them since 2013, and we're on Olympics 2024. That's 11 years. We're almost up to those 20 years, right? So this is what it comes down to. We need to look ahead and see what's around that corner. And I think that we just need to be there and talk about this and try to help the people that come to us and that we meet to see that there's a better goal, because there are better goals than losing weight. It's gonna happen, I promise you. Or maybe not lose weight, but it's gonna look different. Toss the scale. I haven't weighed myself in, I don't even know how long. But it doesn't matter, because I'm capable of doing things, and that's awesome. I'm not afraid of parachuting, because I did that last summer. It was awesome. Because I know that I'm gonna be able to land. I'm not gonna break when I land, you know? So I believe Pete in the 84 headstand taking my socks off. I believe it.
I'll be here waiting.
I think that's an absolutely brilliant place to probably wrap up this the first episode of 2022. I think the way I really didn't know which direction we were going to go in today, having never, spoke in person with you, having a few messages back and forth. But I think the way you started talking there about goals and the kind of looking at the bigger picture and the longer term goals and the lifestyle and zooming out and looking at, who do you want to be in 20 years time? What kind of person do you want to be, as a mother, as a grandmother, I just saw Rick Brown posted yesterday. I don't know if you saw, Pete, he's now a great grandfather, isn't he? Yeah. Who's training. So that's absolutely brilliant. And Stina, I'd absolutely love to get you back on again to talk maybe more around your approach to, to nutrition. You started to talk about there and training, but that was really, really fantastic. And thanks so much for fitting us in between Christmas and New Year as well, to speak. Pete, do you have anything you'd like to kind of say in conclusion? First episode of the year.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Like you say, we never know where these conversations are going to go, especially when we don't know the person who we're talking to or we've never met.
We do know now.
No, but it's absolutely, and it has, at least on one occasion, gone off on a tangent. We were like, ooh, how did that happen? But anyway, no, it's been brilliant. It was great listening to your story at the beginning, actually, because it's just overcoming one thing after the next, and then taking that ahead with you. But you already had that mind, like that in it within you by the sounds of it anyway. But what I think, one of the things I've got from this, and Tracy did say to us, she said afterwards, she gave us some feedback and said, you guys, like, it would be good to try and get what do you want the listeners to get out of this podcast, right? Like every episode, because it just kind of finishes and then it's like, okay, go and listen to it. And then it'll be like all these things that are said, lovely, now go and do what you do about your day, which is what people do. So it's like, what do you want people to get out of it? And I think the goal of what do you want to do? What do you want to be able to do is great. Not like, how much do you want to be able to lift? How skinny do you want to look? What clothes do you want to fit you? All that. It's like, what do you want to be able to do? And there's going to be something. It's like kids, like play football with your kids in the park, or like you say, walk up a mountain. Like I've got a lady who's in 61. We're going to go and walk up Penny Fan at Easter, which is a mountain just up the road. You know, so she's got that in her head. So that's a proper goal, and that's easy. Then it's easy to work towards because you know when it's going to be and what it's going to be. You know, so I think that's a good takeaway, and I like that. What do you want to be able to do is a great goal. So thank you.
And I just want to give a bit of a shout out to one of our members, Andy, who's recently had a total knee replacement sort of 3 weeks ago. And you talking about I suppose it's taking ownership and responsibility for your own rehab, isn't it? And your own recovery and your own, because he had this total knee replacement only 3 weeks ago, and he's coming in, he does all his physio exercises. He's moving well. He's determined. He was a high-level badminton player for many years. He's about 60 now. But he's taken real responsibility for his own recovery. And I've seen lots of people who've had knee replacements before, and in 6 months, they've not been as far along as he is after, 3 or 4 weeks, because he's really decided, I'm going to get my, like Mark Rifkind has obviously had his total knee replacements, is I'm going to take full responsibility for regaining, 90-degree mobility at the knee and more than, so I think that what you were saying about, we've had this conversation before where sometimes it doesn't take much. If someone says, oh, you should really put your feet up and rest, some people just take that advice straight away and use it as the justification to sit down and do nothing. And ultimately that doesn't help them in the slightest, whereas actually taking full responsibility and ownership for your own recovery, your own body, your own health, and doing your own research and listening to your own body and getting to know yourself, I think is so important. So I think that was really, really powerful, because a lot of the people I deal with have had, they've had surgeries, they've had knee replacements, maybe hip replacements and things. And the way that you talked about, take what the surgeon says. Obviously, you listen to people who are qualified, but don't be curtailed or put off actually moving your body, because moving is going to get you so much better than just sitting on a sofa or laying on a bed, And
also you're more than your broken whatever.
Yeah.
There are so much more to you than the torn part, the fixed part. So, and that needs to move anyways. Maybe you need to rest the broken finger, but the rest can work.
And I think Dan might have said before when he was on, Dan John said something around, if you've got, if your right arm is damaged and it's in a cast, if you continually train the left arm, there's sort of neurological things happen.
Oh yeah.
Blood flow.
Fabio did that.
Fabio did that. And there's, so actually by pressing still on the left, even if you can't move the right, there's some carryover, to the injured limb that is still, you're still working the body, you're still connecting the mind to the body, you're still going to help your recovery. So no, it's fantastic. Stina, thank you so much for spending time with us. And yeah, I would love to have you on again. It's been lovely. And I'll ping Tracy a message and say thank you so much to Tracy Rifkind for putting us in touch with you, because it's been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stina. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Welcome to 2022. This has been episode 71 with Stina Albihn. Okay, and it's been a great episode to kick off the year. Please, if you are on Facebook and you want to join our closed Facebook group, which Tracy is now in, I think, actually, just find Health Oddity on Facebook in groups and ask to join, and we'll let you in. Please do share, like, subscribe to the podcast, And if you're listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do that as well. And we will see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Oddity.